Hey guys, hope you're having a great day. You're watching Halborn Flash Videos. I'm Arabdha, and today we're joined by Claudio from Nativo. So, Claudio, first of all, welcome to this chat and thanks for joining us in. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Claudio Cossio. I'm one of the co-founders of Medical. We're the first liquid staking solution on NEAR and Aurora, both on staking wrap NEAR and Aurora and now staking the native Aurora token as well, which is we recently announced last week. So really excited about that one. Yes, I've been in crypto since 2019, actively in it or taking the plunge 2 years. So that's
Mhm.
when prior to launching Metapool, I was part of like kind of the ecosystem guild program for NEAR Protocol for Spanish speaking region. So we launched NEAR Hispano, and that's how I got involved with the crypto community over at NEAR. And yeah, so it's been quite a ride.
Awesome, awesome. Definitely interesting how you went to the NEAR ecosystem and ended up starting this. So going a little bit more into that, tell us a bit about why build on NEAR. What are the value adds you see?
Yeah, so a little bit of backstory there. When I first got introduced to NEAR through to their coin list offering, so I was happy to say that I was one of the early backers for them.
Mhm.
And then they started sending some updates around kind of like because to be honest, they didn't know what a proof of stake network protocol was at that time. But I participated in a couple of the coin list offerings, and there were a couple of proof of stake protocols there, and NEAR was one of them. And actually, I met Ilya, one of the co-founders of NEAR, way before he launched, got into blockchain. So that was when he was working at Google at the TensorFlow team. Um, and so that got me interested, right? It's like always seeing a familiar face behind a crypto project is really important. I know there's a lot of pseudonymous, anonymous projects, but for me, coming kind of like a traditional Web 2.0 background, for me was really important, right? And so I started to learn a little bit more on the community aspect of it, and then started to understand building on top of NEAR. And so for me, it was a really good developer experience. I set up like kind of like a small team. At that time, I was working full time for a Web 2.0 SaaS platform called Atlassian. And so it's kind of like moonlighting there. And so I'm not technical in the aspect that I get into coding, but I do understand part of the narrative and also how digital products are made or software. And so there were a lot of other proof of stake chains launching at the same time, their testnets, and we found a lot of challenges in building the how stable the blockchain was, and that I think NEAR brought that sense of calmness that you can not have to wait for the testnet to be restarted, right? So it worked out of the get go. The documentation was really good, and so that made a really good first impression. Then when they launched their mainnet, that I got introduced like how staking would work on mainnet, right? Because it's one thing on testnet, the other thing is on mainnet. And so really happy how all the developer experience has been. Even though Rust is the main development language on NEAR, they supported WASM. But the problem with that, or the difference between a WASM contract and a Rust contract, is the upgradability, right? Once you launch a WASM contract, that is there, set in stone, cannot be upgraded. On the Rust side, there were a lot of features that NEAR offered that allow developers to upgrade their smart contracts quite easily, or with less of a pain. Let's say it's not easy, it's not trivial, right?
Let me take you back a little bit more to Metapool. Tell us a bit more on the inception story itself and also the team behind.
I got introduced to NEAR through their CoinList offering. Then I participated in a little bit on their hackathons. I participated first in what was called Stake Wars, which was just getting the node operators up and running. To be
Yeah.
honest, I'm not a DevOps guy, or I'm not interested in DevOps. And so I took a step back, but with that experience, that's how I met my co-founder, Lucio. Lucio was actually participating in stake wars, understanding how that works. And then
Yeah.
he launched a Chrome extension wallet called NEAR Wallets. Um, And it was really good because when I asked the question, hey, who from Latin America is building on top of NEAR, everybody pointed to Lucio. And so I reached out to them. I did a couple of webinars with him trying to understand. And for other folks trying to build on NEAR from the Latin American region, for him to tell his story, right? And so it was really good in the sense that we got to know each other, right? He understood that I'm kind of more like a business oriented, very much go to market. That's what I do. And he offered me first to work in our wallets, right? And at that time for me was really, really easy, right? I came from a SaaS background. For me, it's like, what's your total addressable market, right? In this case, it's people staking NEAR. I went in, did the query on chain, and there were like, I don't know, maybe 3,000 stakers. And then I went back to Lucio, hey, Lucio, thank you very much for the offering, but your total addressable market is 3,000 people or 3,000 wallets, not even people, right? And I was like, okay, so this is going to be challenging, right? Like I said, you know what? I'm not going to leave my job for this.
Right.
And, but then again, he insisted, and a couple of months later, I think it was December 2020, he said, hey, you know what? I got this, right? It's called liquid staking. He sent me a white paper and then a derivative or a token from a token. And I'm like, okay, so tell me, why is this not a Ponzi scheme, or how can you enable NEAR token holders the ability for that token to accrue in value? And here comes where credit is due, right? Lucio is one of the, I think, in the maybe top 5 developers on the NEAR protocol when it comes to smart contracts. And so his design is really good. Like, it's a brilliant design. And this is coming a little bit what Nativo is, right? So it's a liquid staking platform. What it allows is people to delegate their NEAR to the platform. The platform itself, what it does is that it distributes NEAR to as much validators nodes as possible, maintaining a good staking rewards percentage to the delegators, right? And at that time, most of the liquid staking platforms were rebasing assets, right? Rebasing tokens. This meant that you get kind of like a receipt on the staking rewards, and then the staking rewards were sent later, at a later point in time, right? And we've seen this with the Shanghai upgrade for Ethereum, right? And most of the liquid staking platforms, top of mind, were on the Ethereum platform, and most of them were rebased in assets. For us, the design that Lucio came up with, and through how NEAR is built, allowed a liquid staking token to be not rebased. Basically, what it is the smart contract controls all of the NEAR tokens, controls the allocation of all the NEAR being delegated to the smart contract in a non-custodial manner, which means that it's always, it's kind of like an Oracle service where the smart contract itself is saying, hey, to this validator node, I'm sending 1,000 NEAR, to this 3,000, 5,000. But then the smart contract itself acts as a big pool. That's why it's called meta pool, because it's a pool of pools, right? Of delegation of NEAR or tokens. And so this is the main difference of the design of meta pool. And it's a brilliant design. It reduces the risk of depegging of the asset itself. That means that the smart contract is always controlling how much NEAR staking rewards it's receiving at any given moment. Why? Because this same smart contract is the one that manages the allocation and also the unstaking process as well. So when somebody comes in to unstake, the smart contract is always on top of those requests, right? Either on the fast unstaking or the normal unstaking, right? We can go that into a little bit details. But when he sent it over in 2020, I was like, okay, I don't understand nothing like this, right? Then January said, you know what, this is what I want to do. And he sent me the link for Lido Finance, right? And then, of course, Lido at that time, Vlad and Constantine had done a really, really excellent job, right, of evangelizing on what liquid staking is. And so I look into their documents. I see their talks in December and a couple of Eat Lisbon and a couple of other talks, right? And start to understand the value of it. And for me, then like I got the aha moment, right? I said, okay, this is great. Liquid staking brings decentralization to the protocol itself. It brings capital efficiency because those assets or tokens are not locked and they're moving around the ecosystem, so it gets transaction fees. So that way, more validator nodes can get paid, right? For securing and, more importantly, reviewing that all transactions are being made on the protocol itself. So anyhow, I said yes. I said, okay, let's go, right? We did a little bit of moonlighting, right? But I said, you know what, let's go. And then we launched on August 23rd, or August 22nd, actually, on 2021 to a little bit of a good success, right? We did a 3-week like community launch, right? Where people that delegated their NEAR to the protocol got compensated with the meta staking rewards, which is our governance token. Fast forward to last week, right? Last Thursday, we announced that we are basically decentralizing Metapool, right? Now, all protocol fees are going to be distributed to those meta token holders that are participating in the governance and that, more importantly, are helping grow the protocol for the next coming decades and hopefully centuries. But for now, if it's for this year, we'll take what we can get. But really happy about where we are right now. But it has been quite a bit of a ride, and I couldn't have done it without having a great partner as Lucio and the great people surrounding the project, our backers, and also the community itself, which is the reason why we built the protocol, right? That's one of the big things we're doing this year is we're going to deliver what we promised back in 2021, which is a decentralized liquid staking platform. And if everything goes well, knock on wood, we're going to be the first totally decentralized liquid staking platform, right? Where at the end of the day, value for us, it is not about the decisions on the protocol. It is more who is accruing most of the value being generated by the protocol, by the platform. And in this case, should be governance token holders, right? And so that's going to be a really interesting part that we're going to be building for the next coming years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, behind every great project, there's always a great team. So, I mean, that's a lot of great components definitely put together from what I hear, and love that story of evolution. So yeah, you mentioned a bit about the meta token. I would love to learn a little bit more about that and the tokenomics behind it.
One of the best things about building on top of NEAR is that all smart contracts can run on top of a DAO. It is designed that way. Because a DAO in itself is a smart contract. In Ethereum or in other layer ones, it's a little bit different, right? You have to rely on snapshots. You have to rely on governance happens off-chain. Here in NEAR, you can do it on-chain. That means you can create a DAO, create council members for the DAO. A wallet that signs can itself be another DAO. So it has some really interesting features. Of course, that creates also challenges around governance, but for us, it's really simple, right? It is we start this month with a clean slate. That means that all protocol fees being accrued during this month will be allocated to the DAO, the Metapool DAO, which then will distribute all of the protocol fees to community initiatives that are focused on helping grow the liquid staking, the adoption of the liquid staking token, or in this case could be the adoption of the meta governance token. We don't care. This is the most important part here is that we're giving options to the community for them to be accruing all the value creation from the platform itself. And then this is very important because this is basically putting all value creation in front and center. And by putting all meta governance tokens front and center of everything we do, we are hopeful that we can build a virtuous cycle of, yes, more people participating. That means that more people are staking. That means that more protocol fees are being generated. For now, this I cannot go too much into the details. We are using our communities in Metapool as a stepping stone for governance. And then at a later stage, we will open up to all communities on NEAR and Aurora and on any other blockchain that we're going to be supporting moving forward, right? And this is very, very important because we are launching on Ethereum hopefully by mid-June. And so we will try to solve this issue that other liquid staking platforms have, right? Which is how do you support governance on multiple chains, right? Yeah. And so we're very bullish on the technology that's been built on NEAR now with their blockchain operating system initiative as well. And so hopefully we will leverage what the NEAR protocol is offering us in order for us to build the governance around the liquid staking platform.
Wow, super excited about the Metapool DAO and all the tokenomics around Meta coming up. So I have to ask you as well, you guys have such a great team. How did you go about kind of like around the security strategy? And why did you partner with somebody like us, let's say?
Having one of the top developers on NEAR and on Rust development be one of the founders is that we have really high expectations on partnerships and more on the technical side, right? And so in this case, through starting conversation with Halborn, we were pretty straightforward, right? There's going to be high expectations on the delivery of the services, the security auditing services. So in that sense, we're really happy with the outcome. It's always a two-way street, right? We get feedback from your security audit team, and we also give them feedback because we understand that every L1 has its particular quirks, right? And there's no experts, right? Everybody's learning as we go, as we're building more complex systems around DAOs, around staking, around DeFi, around NFTs, right? So each use case has its own quirks. So really happy about the outcome. But more so than anything is the level of professionalism that we have found in the region, specifically for developers in Argentina, right? Really, really great developers. Quality is really high, right? And this is what also, and I have to do credit where credit is due, right? Which is Lucio has been the one holding the team to high standards, and it has shown, right? We've been one of the teams in the NEAR and Aurora ecosystem with most projects being launched on mainnet, right? Just alone before even Q2 ends, we've launched 3 different products, right? And so that's something that on the Web 2.0 side might be, not too much to brag about, but we're proud of the products we built and the launch that we've done on mainnet, right? And this is just getting started. Now we're moving to other L1s, so we're hoping to keep the momentum going. And it's through partnerships with Halborn, partnerships with the main protocols themselves, right? In this case, for Ethereum, is going to be SSV Network, right? We're leveraging their direct validator technology in order to launch quickly on Ethereum mainnet, and that's happening on June. And then partnering with Aurora for EVM compatible networks that are running on NEAR, and then of course NEAR itself, right? And then the different partners inside of NEAR, like Proximity Labs, helping us become one of the blue chip projects for the DeFi ecosystem there. And then Pagoda that are launching the blockchain operating system as well. And so it's definitely, we held our partners to high standards. And yeah, we're just happy to be here with you and the Halborn team discussing what's the next step for Metapool.
It's always great to hear, and congrats on the product roadmap thus far as well. The progress looks super exciting. So to end with on this conversation, would you have any alpha to share, something that the community should be really looking forward to next?
Yes, so we've been talking a little bit about DAOs, right? For me, the open invitation for everybody is to go to metapool.atp. There's a section called Vote. And in order for them to get accustomed to how do you use Meta for voting, that's going to be a key part in participating in the governance, and then generating or being one of the persons or individuals or organizations that are receiving or accruing the rewards from participating in the governance, right? And those are directly protocol fees from the liquid staking platform. Right now, it's only going to be on NEAR. Then eventually we will be onboarding Aurora, and then we will be onboarding Ethereum, right? We need to be building them layer by layer or block by block, using it as an oxymoron, and then understand how governance happens for each protocol, right? We understand communities on each network have their own quirks, right? And their own ways of organizing themselves. That's the beauty and the challenge of decentralization. But for us, it's definitely, yes, get involved with the governance really early on. Join our Discord, our Telegram. Those are where conversations are happening. If you see that a region's not being represented by in Metapool, please do raise your hand and volunteer to launch that region. That's going to be really a cornerstone of what we're building. And then last but not least, we will be allocating incentives around staking for both Aurora and Ethereum. So be ready for that. And so get accustomed to how we get familiar to how we do staking. It's not that difficult, because at the end of the day, it's delegation. Very importantly, the smart contracts themselves are non-custodial. So we do not have access to your tokens at any point in time. And this is something that Halborn audited, right? And so, and then on top of that, we have other products that we build on top of liquid staking tokens, such as MetaYield, or the Launchpad that we have, which is relying on a lossless way to support projects through liquid staking tokens. And then we have MetaBonds, which is a secondary bond market, which is also getting audited, by the way, by Halborn. And so definitely we have a suite of products that we just recently announced last week, that everything is coming together as an ecosystem. And so yeah, it's providing a better UI, UX experience for new persons coming into blockchain technology, getting in front of it. And so really happy to be doing our fair share of allowing that experience to be more seamless.
Right. Those were a lot of exciting points to check out. Thank you for sharing all of that. And also thank you so much for joining us on this chat today, Claudio. Have a great one ahead.